Hi guys, it's Jamie here, and today we're going to try and pull everything together. As you can see, I have a much larger piece of paper which I've already divided into our grid system. I also have 3 different sizes of washi tape which we're going to be using as a masking tape. I am going to try and build my final piece along the PowerPoint lines and intersections as much as possible. And although you can't see me do it in this section, I am referring to all 3 pictures from the former tutorials to decide how I'm going to build a structure on this paper. I particularly like the left-hand side of all 3 pictures, so I definitely want to try and mask off areas that duplicate that. I know off to the right and centrally I do want to get the dynamic diagonals in with the shading, and I do want to get an abstract reference to the windows in the architecture. Because I'm masking off, I know that the areas that I'm masking off will stay pale. Therefore, I am looking at the pictures to look at light and shade and decide where I want to put my light areas. I'm also considering the balance of the lines that I'm putting in and looking at my original pictures with the horizontals in there and also those dynamic diagonals. I am aware of trying to create balance with verticals and horizontals whilst also taking references from the pictures and using the grid system to create the dynamism. Here I'm not just relying on the washi tape being completely straight, I'm actually cutting a small archway for the bottom of the paper that replicates the ones in the drawings. From the bottom of the quick sketch, I quite like those boxes, so I'm going to put some of those into my masked areas. I'm also using mirroring and balancing when placing my different washi tapes. And I've also happened to have this grid tape, which I'm going to use to create some areas of light and shade, replicating the windows. I've chosen to go slightly off the plan of the drawing here to have the window area at the top, as per the original drawing, and then balance some to the left, bottom, and upper left. I added 1 extra vertical line of masking tape, and now I'm happy with how it's looking. I'm using a Payne's Grey acrylic paint, watered down to make a wash, and lightly covering with the first coat of the grey. And then using my pictures as references, going back in with a second or even third coat to darken down some of the wash areas to create the tonal shading that you see in the original photos and the observational drawing. Once that's fully dry, all you need to do is take away all your washi tapes. If you find the washi tape is pulling at the paper, you can use a heat gun, which will warm up and loosen the glue and make it much easier to remove the washi tape without removing a layer of the paper at the same time. As you can see here, some of the wash has seeped underneath the washi tape. In Vortism, it's all about clean, straight lines and angles and geometric shapes. Before I can attempt to fix the lines and make them sharper, I'm just covering the whole piece with some matte medium and letting that dry. I have produced a few of our architectural photos in different colourways, which will be in your Dropbox, which if you choose to, you can use in your final piece. To fix my lines, I initially use different sizes of marker pen and select areas that I want to create more shadowing in and bold impact. Because I am tidying up and I'm using the tones to decide where to put my stronger lines, it's actually giving me some different shapes for my final piece. Here's where we're up to, having used the marker pen and some white paint pen to highlight different areas. I've also cut up lots and lots of small architectural detail, which I am now deciding where I'm going to place that on the picture as a collage. Of course, just like with the masking tape, I am considering when choosing where to place these collage pieces the PowerPoint lines and intersections on the grid, the pictures that we did in tutorials 1, 2 and 3, and also a sense of balance between pieces. You can see here I've cut a piece down, and in placing pieces I am taking into consideration the effects we got from doing the wash, so that, for example, with those windows, they are reflecting the wash windows. Now I'm using the dark purple pieces from the architecture reprints to add the shade or the tones that we could see in the original black and white and the observational drawing. I'm also using the black and white pens as well as my purple pieces to try and create that dynamic speed of change that we talked about in tutorial 1. This time when cutting up the architectural photos, I actually tried turning them round and found some really cute patterns, which I think are quite dynamic looking and full of vitality, because I am constantly referencing my original collage and my observational drawing. I've pulled out some shaded areas to add in similar positions, but not exactly the same as I had them before. I'm also using some of the dark pieces to create a more 3D effect or some depth to my boxes. I found lots of diagonal patterns in the reprints of the architectural photos, and I'm adding those again for movement and the idea of pace and speed of change. Not only do I want to repeat certain patterns and shapes and pieces for continuity, I also want to use pieces to interrupt some of the existing marks and shapes that we've got. Because I didn't want to bore you stupid explaining why I'm placing what I'm placing where, I did also do a bit of a time lapse for some of the collage. Because not all my collage pieces had the colours that were in the colour challenge, I started to use felt tips and marker pens to add as close to the colours that I had as possible in extra lines. And actually, I'm really pleased with how the colours bring a sense of excitement to the piece. Because this is felt tip and I'm not quite sure how it will react if I add any more processes, I'm just giving it a light spray over of matte varnish. I do feel that I'm pretty much there, so I just want to whiten up around the edge of the picture to give it a framed effect and draw the eye in. I start off doing this process with white paint pen, but it didn't give me the coverage I really wanted. So then I switched to white gesso. In this section of the video, I'm just going to try and point out to you how I've got similar effects going from either the collage or the observational drawings. So I'm pointing out the thin vertical line that you can see in the collage, the shaded areas that you can see in the observational drawing. Here you can see the area that I liked in all of that scribble kind of sketching that I've replicated over onto the final piece. And from that scribble sketching also some of the shapes and even the quick drawing that represents the windows. And I'm just trying to point out here that I actually did quite a lot of the windows evenly placed throughout the whole piece. And although I did explain it earlier about how I moved the shading over, I've also here pointing out where that shading is reappearing from the originals, plus how that shading may not just be the actual collage pieces, but can also be the wash or the lines that I've added. Although my colours are a bit off, I have tried to match up some of the shades from the original colour challenge. The windows maybe do not fit, and my felt tip wasn't as beige as I would have liked. It's a bit more of a luminescent or fluorescent yellow, but I do think that makes the picture quite dynamic. Because I have done this whole exercise in my commonplace book, and let's be honest, the scribble sketch isn't that pretty to look at. I have here a quote from Jerusalem, a very popular, very British orientated hymn that does refer to industrialisation. And was Jerusalem builded here among those dark satanic mills, Bring me my bow of burning gold. Bring me my arrows of desire. Bring me my spear, O clouds unfold. Bring me my chariot of fire. I shall not cease from mental fight, nor shall my sword sleep in my hand.